it's a shame because all the good jokes are always right before the podcast. And I'm sorry if you're watching this because you missed it. So I'm just gonna ask, how was DrupalCon? Anyone wants to take that?
Sure. Yeah, DrupalCon was very good. Good presentations and good discussions. On the REST serialization front, had good discussions with Fago related to the issue to allow type data to expose or set properties that should be exposed to normalization. And I think we're going to switch that to be marked as set internal or not internal, with the default of all properties being not internal, except for, yeah. And there were some problems with the way we were doing it before that kind of cascaded to like configuration fields and stuff like that, which automatically would have got the concept of exposed, which we weren't really intending. So he gave some suggestions on how to re-architect it to be more like computed fields. So that will be good. And I think we got a lot of guidance on the configuration validation, but Daniel might be able to talk more about that because I didn't follow quite everything that was when we were talking with Alex Pott and somebody else I can't remember.
Yeah, during DrupalCon we figured out how we ideally want to do validation, which is all based upon entity constraints. I know that Ted did some research around whether the current like config schema is already included inside like the type data constraints, but I'm not sure what your research result was.
Oh, yeah, basically that when you do, with the current patch, the way it was done, if you make a request and it does not, it doesn't match the schema. So let's say you put a string in for weight where it should be an integer. You actually do get a validation error, and I can update that issue to sort of map out where that's happening. Basically, when you do the type, when you say, give me the type data version of this, it has the value, and then it also passes in something called mappings, which I guess is what's actually triggering, allowing the validation to happen. And I also looked at, I think, I looked at the difference between importing via the config importer and via the both way in the patch. And I think dependencies aren't checked in REST. I'm not sure if we need to do that. The other thing I think Alex Pott had suggested be very careful on allowing deletes. So I don't know if we need to update that issue to handle everything but deletes first, because there's a whole nother level of validation when you're deleting something. Say like for a content type, if you delete a content type, you should really be checking to see if there's any nodes of that content type, which I think also is not covered in the current patch.
Yeah, I think a good idea is to not handle deletes right now, but basically moving all the importer validation, which is out there right now, into the constraint system, and then ensuring that every place, or basically the importer should then also call out to the constraints on like import validation. But yeah, it's tricky because there are like several code paths to importing, right? And import an individual item, import like the entire tree, and then there's also config entity saving. So all of those should at the end call out to the type data validation thing.
I guess the other thing we had talked about briefly was normalizers and BC policy, because we've had a couple issues related to caching the primitives and the timestamp issue, where you put a flag that you would, I guess, new sites would automatically get the new behavior, and then existing sites, I think, could override it via a flag, like BC underscore, I don't know, something timestamp. And I think we had sort of discussed that probably this will happen on a per issue basis going forward, but we might want to, instead of just having like a flag for each change, to maybe have like still a flag for each change, but have them nested under sort of some sort of BC parent key, so that it's obvious that there's going to be more in the future, because there's a few more items, items coming, or issues that will have a similar similar effect in the future that will probably need some sort of flag.
Yeah, all normalization issues, when we try to be a very broad level, is going to require some sort of manual checking before they can transition to the new stuff. So yeah, I think that's a good solution. Cool. Well, that sounds like a lot of stuff. And just to provide a little bit more context for someone that is not into this kind of conversations, the type data exposed set internal or not internal, because sometimes when we expose the entity via JSON API or GraphQL or REST core, we expose more stuff than what we would like, because we don't know any better. We don't know if an entity is in field or a property is interesting or not to be there. And sometimes none of these modules can be opinionated, because hey, who am I to say if this is interesting or not? But some others, it is. It is pretty obvious that this is not something that is for someone to consume, because it's something that is very internal, which sparkles some debate. And config entity validation, it's what is blocking right now, from course perspective, the writing and deleting of configuration entities. Perfectly. I'm going to assume yes. Or maybe my audio is not coming through, which would be very sad.
No, we just would like to listen to you.
Right, yeah, the awkward silent misery. Okay, cool. Something that I was today is, well, I have been these days. What is a path forward for to be included in a Contenta and Reservoir? And Ted, feel free to correct me. Contenta, and I think that for Reservoir it's very similar. One of the deal breakers is the zero configuration drop-in, and then the user can enhance. And I'm not sure if GraphQL can provide that at the moment. I guess I can answer to Sebastian right now.
Go ahead first, Ted. I didn't fully understand the question, I guess.
Sorry. I guess that something that we were wondering in Contenta is like JSON API is just enable the module and you have all the content entities. There is an opinionated set of things that are exposed. We find it sensible. Is GraphQL operating under the same assumption?
Currently, you enable the module and then you configure what you want to expose and how, using like display formatters and field formatters and yeah, that's how it's done right now. But we already talked with Wim also for including it in Reservoir and in Drupal core. And for that, they want to have some sort of auto configure or auto schema, even if you didn't configure anything yet. And we are currently working on that. There are 3 issues in the issue queue which will enable that. So when you enable the core modules and you don't configure any of that, you'll just get the whole schema for all of the entity properties exposed with raw type data output. And then you can override that with configuration, but by default, it will just expose everything.
That's exactly what I was asking. That's pretty cool. So I think to remember that, let me check this because I haven't checked GraphQL. You mentioned we used to doing a stable release. Was it possible to do it before DrupalCon? Are you still working on having a stable release?
We now want to include these things that Wim suggested in the stable release first, like the auto-generated schema. Otherwise, you'd have to do a 4.0 version before it can even be considered.
Okay. Okay. Cool. I wouldn't mind to have a 4.0 version, but I guess that's for you to decide, obviously.
Yes. I mean, it's not too much work. There's the actual pull request for the auto-generated schema for all of the type data properties is already there. It's in the issue queue waiting for review.
Wow. Oh, that's fantastic. And yeah, I agree. It's going to be, especially since like users can do or implementers can select what they need. For my part, do anyone have to give an update? Because I've been asking questions, but maybe some of you want to say something. No one is unmuting themselves. Ted.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, I think that covered from what I remember from, I actually missed the API first session because it was right after my session. I talked to a couple people from the who attended. So there is the API first session that Wim did out on the Vienna site. I'm sure there's other API first related ones. All the videos are up by now. So if people want to see, sessions from Vienna, they can start to do that now. I don't know if Fubi, did you give a session in GraphQL or?
I only stayed for the first day of the conference. They published it.
That's right, yeah.
I didn't stay for any of the other days. So no session from us on GraphQL at all.
There was a Contenta session that was recorded also that Daniel and Sally did, I think.
Yeah, and Christina. Yeah, that is recorded. There was some discussion on the API first issue, API first initiative update, what we can do with dog fooding, because I think, at least personally, I think that's really important. There's this WAF idea out there to like basically use the REST API for saving when REST is configured that it's possible. So instead of going via PHP, go via like a sub request to save entities and these kind of things. But I hope others have better ideas to dog food things.
Yeah, I think that it could be something that maybe blocked until we have API techniques in core, but it would be easier to implement those kind of fancier UI, dog fooding our eyes. At the moment, we could do a lot of stuff. I agree. Yeah. I don't know what your impressions are. Do you feel that having an API, GraphQL, or a similar version of those in core would help? Would you block this dog fooding on waiting for those to be in core?
Yeah, I don't think we can block at any point. Yeah, that's more of a parallel effort. There was an interesting buff of Philip really early on a Thursday morning or something, which was about a feature inside the GraphQL module, which allows you to basically use GraphQL inside twig templates. That was really interesting. I guess you can talk more about it.
Yeah, I proceeded with my experimentations, and it kind of works quite well, but it would be great to have somebody else have a look at it, because it goes quite deep into twig. And it was not in the morning, it was at noon.
Implementation detail. Yeah, I will have a look at it when I find time.
No, I just broke upstream by pushing another fix to it. So it's in the GitHub main branch already, and yeah, I'm still working on getting caching right, but the basic concept is there. And there are also some kernel tests that with a test theme that shows how to use it.
Cool. I think that may be everything for the DrupalCon update. Wanted to say that I think it's relevant, I marked a simple auth as stable as of yesterday. And yeah, if there are any issues, we're gonna just keep fixing them. But I decided to move on because it's been a really long while since we had any real issues there, and I think it's that's a good sign that it's pretty stable. See for a couple of months and then see if there are not many issues or at least the ones are I guess. And yeah, so we have a stable release. So as an API first initiative, I believe that we are a little bit stronger with that, more standard and robust way of doing authorization, and more importantly, that works with many different flows, which is what I think that it was lacking, not just sharing a password, which, I mean, it may work, but it also secure. So I don't think that I have anything else. I know that Philip, Carlos, you joined a little bit late. Do you want to add anything? Ask any questions?
No, so far so good. I started like on the issue queue that you created for the DrupalCon. I took a look at it. I started a few issues, so I wanted to ask you, can we tag ourselves with those? Is it okay with you? Because you're
you mean tag yourself in the issue, or
the list of issues that you created for DrupalCon on the GitHub page for the.
Yeah, that's true. So I created a gist in GitHub, doing like a collection of all the outstanding issues that people from outside the code base could be able to tackle, and there are a bunch. Please, Sebastian, Philip, send me any of the GraphQL issue queue that you want me to put there, and I'm gonna start. I want to contribute to that gist. It's just an enumerated list of links to GitHub or on Drupal.org. I would say if you want to take one of those, just follow the link and comment in there hey, I'm gonna take this if this is not taken.
Okay.
Is that what you
Yeah,
meant, Carlos?
Yeah, like let's because yeah, I wanted to reach that point that we should have like a central like what you started there is really good to have a central point for you know, for these issues, and we should like comment out and in that case like the procedure or like the steps for taking an issue or something like that really easy. And another thing is, Phillips, I'm interested on what you were talking about. So can you send me the link so I can test on my free time and then play with it for a while, if it's not a problem?
Yeah, sure. I wasn't sure, should I summarize what we talked about at the above right here?
We have 2 minutes, but if you think you can fit into that, go for it.
Okay, you throw any template file into your theme and annotate it with a GraphQL query on top, which is just written into a Twig command, and it will be picked up, executed, and fed into your template.
Nice.
So that's the gist of how it is supposed to work. It already uses a node visitor to collect sub-templates or GraphQL fragments from included templates, and also gets the GraphQL query from a parent template. But yeah, there's a lot of experimentation required. And you can just, with the latest GitHub commit of the GraphQL module, and there is a GraphQL Twig module that will do that. And there is a test theme in the GraphQL Twig module that illustrates how it works.
Okay. I'll take a look at it in my free time, and that sounds pretty nice.
I agree. I'm even wondering, do you think that we could abstract that away so we could have like the same syntax, but this could be picked up by GraphQL or JSON API? So, you know, we have kind of a collaborative effort to help move this feature forward, and then the technology underneath is just, as Daniel likes to say, an implementation detail. Is this very tied to GraphQL syntax right now?
Well, it just uses GraphQL syntax, but actually most of it, the GraphQL annotation is like a comment that starts with GraphQL. And then it just takes everything else, which is in this very comment block in Twig, as the query. So you could write anything else in there and process it through another data processor.
Right. Yeah. I'm curious how that would look like, because I think that this is very interesting. This may be a good user experience or developer experience improvement. Yeah, we have had an issue in JSON API there that Daniel opened for a while now, but we never really arrived to point to ship it. So nice. Anyone has anything else to add? Awkward silence. I'm gonna call this meeting. It was very sad to miss this DrupalCon. I missed you.
I guess it's supposed to say we are supposed to say we missed you too.
Yeah, we did.
I mean, I know you did.
Hopefully there'll be a Dev Days close to you.
So yeah, I think there are two proposals right now. One is Sofia, and the other one was Lisbon.
Yeah, Lisbon is amazing. I want to go back there. So I'm rooting for that one. But I haven't been in Sofia, so I shouldn't be unfair. Right.
Yeah, both would be amazing. That's for sure.
Anyways, see you on Slacks and IRCs, etc. Bye, everyone.
Bye.